the first arrivals of what we think of as classical information technology into corporations was for business and accounting purposes. The first mainframe implemented in Canada was Ontario Hydro to do billing. Okay, so do you think the CFO, he or she, should have been worried and concerned about that? Well, why? Yes, it's the top line of the corporation, right? And if you think about it, the automation was, I've got a whole bunch of people reading meters, putting them on physical cards, then another set of people going through those cards every week, every month, and creating statements that they type up and send out somewhere, or use, electromechanical printers to get the stuff out the door. And then they put a mainframe in it. So the CFO, the financial people, the auditors, the accountants have been part of this technology journey in business for at least 4, if not 5 decades. So we actually we come from, whether you like it or not, we all tripped over and have used and have been part of and audited those systems. And therefore we have that legitimate knowledge to make that stepping stone into technology, into controls, and then from what we think of as auditors as internal controls for financial reporting, and underneath that, in most anything bigger than a bread box from the company, they've got sophisticated IT. And so the finance people needed to understand that's sufficient to be good stewards of it. And the auditors and that needed to understand that in order to provide assurance over the financial statements or any other relevant activity. So whether you like it or not, a lot of the CPAs have some of that background in their experience in their back pocket. It's a matter of, do they want to go and do that stuff, or do they want to do M&A, or do they want to do tax and other things?
Right.
And all great paths. And so some of us can and do make the path. There's a steep learning curve. So you got to say, do I have the temperament? But the rise has come, and as the article says, one of the great things that CPAs can bring to that is the ability to require business cases for technology, security, or controls, and the ability to describe in at least, say, some language and terms and maybe objectivity about the risks that we could face if we don't have adequate control. And that's not saying that this is a guarantee that if we put good controls, we won't have a breach. But accountants and auditors can be objective because they know how to do that when they talk that narrative. And they can talk the language of the CFO, they can talk the language of the CIO, and they can talk the language of the CISO, right? Part of the value that these people like you and me and others bring on the journey is that they can actually be that shuttle diplomat.
That's right. I think a lot of light bulbs are going off here, right? So continuous learning mindset, they talk about that a lot in security because it's all about innovation and the pace of innovation between threat actors and defenders, and it's just rapidly increasing. And so in accounting with digital transformation, you need to go through continuous learning mindset too. And you need to catch up with technology too. And so what more interesting area to steer that than into this elevating boardroom issue of cyber risk as that becomes more dominant. So you decide, okay, I want to learn about this new, I've learned about payroll, I've learned about order to cash, I've learned about procurement. Why not spend some cycles learning about IT audit and learning about cybersecurity? And there's material risk that I can help with there. And then you take a step in that direction, and then you get over there. And I was surprised at how much overlap I found coming from business, because, like you say, they talk also in security about needing to enable business objectives. Don't just buy technology and blinky lights for the sake of it. How are you enabling the business to be sustainable, to attract customers and make a profit and within a cost? And so it's not just a technology problem. It's a business problem too. So you get accountants that need to be continuous learning. So they might as well learn about this really interesting spy story stuff, which is pretty fascinating. You have skills that are applicable. And so this convergence is happening. And so I guess another theme here is, you've been doing this a long time, rise of the cyber CPA. This is not news. This is the direction that risk has been going, that companies have been going. And it's about the convergence of those. And I also, the article's written with kind of polarizing, trying to make some tension and try to pick a side. And is this good or bad? And but really, zooming out, it's a natural progression of where we're going, and it is a good news story just to see it in the headlines that we're talking about it. So with that in mind, I thought maybe some particular parts of the article to ask you about. It says, for example, it kind of implies that the top thing that we can do as CPAs is to sell security to management. I think, do you agree that is the top thing? And then also, can you think of other things that are benefits that we bring over?
Well, as I see, in a way, I do agree that right now, certainly, the highest utility of someone that's got some credibility in an organization with a CPA background or an accountant's background in cybersecurity or controls can, as I said, they can take the technical points around some security operation or around a security project, or even a governance dysfunctionality in an organization, and they can describe that. And this is, I'm simplifying it, but they can describe that using the internal audit or the external auditors provide management letters. We observed these things. We think these things would create these risks, and we recommend you do this stuff. Most IT auditors that have gone through that journey and other people, that's been a laborious thing to do, to learn as well. I'm relatively good at writing stuff, but believe me, this was a long, painful journey. Thankfully, learning from people that were way better than me on how to write the stuff. But what it does is, again, sort of, if it doesn't kill you, it's good for you. But what it did is create the ability to communicate, get it down to 1 or 2 pages rather than great big long things, which might be technically right, but no one's going to read. And so understanding, through that journey, you understand who's your audience, what's their attention span, and what do I need them to say, think, or do after I've given them that message, right? And a bunch of technologists, and I might be being pejorative here or overglossing it, but don't have the ability to articulate things in that simple business language set of models. So in a way, you are selling, because I've had this conversation even just recently with people. I sort of would paint it out to say, look, if you're going in as the technologist or the auditor, the IT auditor, or the cybersecurity person in an organization to senior management or the president or something to say we should allocate a bunch of money to cybersecurity, understand that the next person that goes to see them is saying we should, if we're a manufacturing company, we should spend another $500,000 on another steel stamping press. And if we get one of those things, we'll be able to produce this many more parts to sell to Ford or to Chevrolet or whatever. And so the CEO of the manufacturer says, I understand that. Yeah, okay. And to understand, you're competing in that arena. You're not competing for some other security project or some other IT project. You're competing for projects, right? And so understand that's your competition. I'm not saying that in a bad way, but organizations have scarce resources, and you've got to try and get your slice of that pie. And so, you can complain and say, I didn't get my money, or look at your own self and say, did I write a good enough business case?
So that's 2 distinct skills that we're bringing over. One is that audit framework. What did you observe? How is it a deficiency? What do you recommend? Exact same template between financial audit and a cybersecurity audit, and it better be punchy, and it better be focused on outcomes that you recommend for management to reduce risk. And
it better be realistic. You can't if you write that stuff and overstate stuff in there, like a salesperson maybe would, or someone that's not trained to be careful with their words, you lose the credibility by saying the sky's going to fall. And management has heard that many times, and the sky hasn't fallen. So you can't go in and say the sky's going to fall, the building's burning down, unless this building is actually burning down.
And I don't have 10,000 hours knowing IT systems inside out, but I respect it, and I want to learn more about it, and I want to start that journey of 10,000 hours. But I can be your partner. You're the technical person interested in breaking stuff and building and architecting stuff. I can be that business person to help frame that up. What could go wrong? Type stuff. So that's one element, is this auditing and risk management, and then the other element is business cases. And certainly, as much negative sentiment as I hear about compliance roles from sophisticated technical hackers and IT people, certainly they would agree that they want more budget. And so that this is an interesting concept, is that use the example of marketing, or like you are jockeying for scarce resources within a corporation with other departments as well, and so an accountant can help that as well. Well, we're on this. Oh, go ahead.
So let's say you're successful competing in that arena to get your 500 grand over and above the new metal stamping press. The next obligation that you've got once you've been handed a bag of gold is to spend it wisely and manage the project, right? And no offense, I know a whole bunch of cybersecurity and IT people and technocrats, but IT projects, right, come in thirds. A third fail, a third are wounded, and a third work. So part of the job of that to maintain credibility is to also take what we know about project management, project risk, and just managing projects. If you think about auditing are all audits are projects where you've got a fixed deadline usually, and you've got to get the work done for amount of resource. So we actually understand how to get projects done more or less properly.
That's right.
And so we can also bring that in a positive way, in a contributory way, to that arena once we've actually got the bag of gold.
And I found that coming from a more mature financial environment, accounting's hundreds of years old, cybersecurity became a material risk in the 90s. Just bringing process. Let's make a ticket for every request. Let's start reporting on those, like get up those CMMI, capability maturity model levels. I didn't have to know anything about technical controls to add value in that domain.
Exactly. Like accountants and auditors understand completeness, accuracy, and authorization and management trail. So, even the simple discussions when the cybersecurity systems people say, we've put multi-factor authentication on the remote systems. You say, right. Well, the thing that an accountant auditor type person can do is say, right, let's take a look at, do we have a list of all of our remote access and all of our third parties? Yes. Have we put that multi-factor authentication on all of them? Oh, well, we've done 8 out of 10. Okay, now we understand really what's going on, right? And that didn't take massive amounts of technical skill. It just took that auditor, completeness, accuracy, authorization, management trail thinking. And as long as you do it in a non-challenging way, right, you can just lay bare what the facts are.
I think that completeness assertion is a really big one that we bring value and understanding in risk mitigation.